Great day, everyone. I'm Dr. Karen Brambila, and I'm so excited to do this video to give all of you that have already come to our center to get your BioWell scan, or you've received a BioWell scan with any globally certified practitioner in any part of the world, and just wants a refresher on how to really synthesize this amazing information to help you better understand and to help your body get to the best version. So when we look at the BioWell, the first thing that you probably remember is when you were putting your finger through here to touch the lens. This is how it works. It's always fun to know, how do I even get my results and what do they mean? What is this glow, right? It looks beautiful, but what does it mean? So when your finger touches that that back part, it's going to release electromagnetic stimulus. And when your finger detects that stimulus, it's going to release free electrons. Now, this is sealed off for a reason. So those free electrons, they activate photons that are inside. And that moment where they activate that glow, it's captured by a camera insanely quick. So that information, if you want to go back and be like, well, what is electrophotonic, aka gas discharge visualization or GDV, which is now being used around the world, and there's over hundreds. I mean, last time I remember, I think somebody said over 400 publications about different areas using this electrophotonic or GDV technology, which allows us to get not only a visual, but a quantitative number in joules, as energy is calculated in joules. So this is a refresher. And if you want to know more about Dr. Korotkov, his team, which are absolutely incredible, the years that they've invested to making sure that this technology is 98% accurate, is, as it says right there in the bottom, present in more than 70 countries. And you can always go to biowell-well.com and get more information. And if you are a practitioner yourself, I highly encourage you to incorporate this, as it gives such valuable information to any individual around the world. Now, the first page, and I'll be brief. The first page is pretty self-explanatory. Based on all of the information, all the scan, it's going to give you some percentages that are going to be down here explained in all of these areas, such as environment, hormone, nutrition, sleep regimen, etc. And so you can, of course, take this information and maybe have some reflection and say, well, what am I eating? What can I improve on? Is it replete with enzymes and minerals, or is it fully cooked and processed? Because every choice that we make kind of reflects, or it reflects on this scan, because it's going to tell us how the body is functioning due to our day-to-day choices. Um, and cool part too is, of course, there's an amazing team behind the scenes, with BioWell around the globe. And so you get some cool little suggestions. Of course, you can take them if you want, or just read them for enjoyment, or apply them. But definitely, take a second to observe and just see what recommendations they suggest. Now, this is the fun page. I love looking at the glow. And again, this was my glow, so I get to see myself from a different lens. So when we are looking at this energy field, you're going to notice it's going to tell you a number. So for me, it's 50 joules. So when I took this IOL scan, my body in that current time was that. Keep in mind, if I was to take back-to-back scans, they're not going to be the same, because energy is always moving. It's always evolving, changing. And so just like we can, you know, get ill and we can start to see dysfunctions or symptoms arise, we can also make changes so that we have top shape health, both mental, physical. And so what you want to look at, for me, you want to observe if there's any dips or spikes, or if there's a lot of red around, because those might indicate inflammatory responses, infections, things like that. And when it has an outer contour where it's like very kind of broken, or has a lot of dips and spikes, then that indicates the stress of the body. And the inner contour gives us kind of a time frame. Is it chronic? Is it recent? We're going to go into this in detail. Now, in the first page of analysis, The beauty behind this report is, aside from the breakdown that I'll give you today, it gives you everything you need. So if you go, well, what is stress? Am I stressed out? So for me, I know I was a little tired that day, but stress is not emotional stress. It's adaptability. Body being able to adapt. And the best range is 2.5 to 3.5. So I have to reflect and go, hold on, what do I need to do to make sure that I am giving my body that adaptability range so I'm not too tired? So I'll make lifestyle choices to make sure that my body can pick that up. And it also gives you an explanation here. Level of organism involvement in stress adaptation, right? On basically physiological and psychological levels. And so it gives you a marker. What is, 8 to 10? Well, that's very high. If it's 0 to 2, that means um, essentially that it's a person's more of an introvert, slow, deferred response. So it could be a little sluggish. So that's when we talk about that sense of adaptability. So don't look at it and go, yeah, low stress. But you want to be in that ideal range. Energy, your ATP production, right? Oxygen, glucose makes your energy. Um, Organ disbalance, tell you what percentage you're right or left hand dominant to. You'll get this information here. For example, in the number of organs in disbalance in your left hand versus your right hand. I have 3 on my right and 0 on my left. So I guess in this round, left did a great job. And then the average disbalance energy. So anything that is over, and if again, you go back to your marker here, and it tells you if it's green, it's 0 to 5. If it's yellow, that means there's 6 to 15. If it's orange, so it gives you a breakdown. It means it's 1 to 3, but the gap could be completely different. And this, I always say, don't worry about this too much because in the graph, it's going to break down what they are. And so you are looking at the same information through multiple modalities to see which one kind of resonates best with you. So I'm going to skip these for now because I want to go to this one because it ties straight with this. Energy. So remember those 3, for example, for me that I had on my right side? Well, I want to figure out, well, what is, is over 20%. And so for me, I look at this, and the first thing we have to keep in mind is green is where we want to be. 4 to 6 joules. 5 is like top notch. So you don't ever want to be in red. Please, if you ever get anything that's in red, pay attention to that. Be proactive. Whatever therapy you do, just be consistent with it. Orange, if it's, I say, from like 3 and up, it could be, it's adapting. Maybe you had a workout, maybe you were, stressed out when you took the scan. So all of these are factors, or maybe you ate something that didn't settle too well. But keep in mind that, there's that adaptation phase, which is totally doable. And, that's why we're consistent with our therapies so that we can start to really gauge a map. And then there are 2 more, which is the light yellow and the dark yellow. The reason why the dark yellow didn't show up for me is because I didn't have anything that was in the dark yellow range, which is above the 8. Those are also extremes where you don't want to be in, where it's probably means either inflammation, infections, or dysfunction. So you want to pay attention to that. If it's anything from like 6.5, 6 point, and probably adapting, nothing to be too, concerned about, but still, obviously, we want to get to top-notch shape. And so when I look at this, I go, well, which are the 3 that are highlighted? Now, you notice there are 2 colors, the green and the blue. The blue is the right hand. The right hand measures our parasympathetic nervous system, and the left hand measures our sympathetic nervous system. Really cool stuff to keep in mind. So as I look at this, I go, okay, number 4, my key is down here. It's the pancreas. So sympathetic. Okay, so my sympathetic, when it comes to the pancreas, I gotta pay attention. Even though it's like right at the tip, I still want it to be 5 for me. The 8, so adrenals. All right, so they're both in green, which is great. So right here, what we're trying to get to is that homeostasis, that balance between both autonomic nervous systems, right? The nervous system, which is comprised of parasympathetic and sympathetic. And then on the 14th, so I go here and look for my number, which is going to be my urogenitalia system. So again, it seems to be the sympathetic side is like border touching, which is probably adapting, but I don't want to have that gap of more than 20%. I want both of, the subcategories of my autonomic nervous system to be working top notch. So that analysis page, I would hop into this and see, well, which one is it? Now let's go back to our area diagram. So what is area? Area, the way that I understand and always explain area is the function. What is the function of my organs? This is a really cool visual too. I've always been a visual and a color person. Like my whole notes in college were the rainbow. So I love this. You want to be again in the green. You don't want to be in the extremes of the red or the dark pink and the dark yellow. So if I'm observing this, if it was any person and there was anything that was either dipped in the red or outside in the yellow, I would be proactive to figuring out, okay, what might be happening? Is it a microorganism? Is it that I'm really stressed out? Is it my environment? Am I in a very high geopathic stress? And so that's why practitioners, it doesn't matter the field, we are the ones that kind of analyze this to also work with you. But in essence, this is very important for you to really understand. So, what is the function? So, if I'm looking at this, for me, I go, well, that moment, good job. You earned yourself a boba drink. I love boba, by the way. So, um, then it gives us markers here. So, if you're looking at this and you're going, well, let's say that the liver was in the dark yellow. And I go, well, what does that mean? So I would just go up here and look at, well, very high integral area. So that means significant tension, hyperreaction, presence of inflammatory responses, right? Derangement of adaptation, temperature, inflammation. So it gives you those descriptions, right, of what can possibly be happening there. And now area, even though they look like the same thing, you're like, well, aren't I looking at the same graph or the same diagram? This one, we're looking at the energy, right? The energy reserve. And it tells you here, energy diagram is designed for an analysis of the functional state of the human body by calculating the energy parameter of the particular sector, energy of the glow, energy reserve, right? The energy reserve. So now over there, we have function, here we have the energy. One thing we always, and this we do across comparison when you are, if you're my patient and you meet with myself, Veronica, or anybody in the team, we look to see if you put one on top of the other, what does that look like? The red, the energy, should always be on the outside. The orange line, which is the function, should always be on the inside. If at any point the red line dips behind the orange, that's telling us we do not have the reserve necessary to meet the function of that organ. And so it's going to highlight red for us. And if it's too much of a gap, like there's so much energy reserve, it's just working and working and working. And it doesn't even require that much. It's like going to the corner to buy something, we got to go to the liquor store and grab some water. And instead of just going straight, we go all the way around the block and walk 3 times to get to the same place. Well, we now just exhausted more energy. And so it's very important for us to see if it's marked red or marked yellow, if the gap is too big or if there's a lack of reserve. So we can get that for you all. But in essence, same thing. So I would look at this and go, great. If there's anything that, again, is in red or it's in that dark yellow, I would go back to this and just, pay attention or work with your specialist. The nervous centers, aka the chakras. This is always a fun one. I've always had people that get like very skeptical, like, oh, and everything here is science, and that's the beauty of this. And everything here is 98% accurate. Remember, this scientific team of Dr. Korotko has over 20 plus years where it's been, exposed to the market, used by practitioners, used by MDs, used by researchers around the world. It is something you can trust. And obviously, if you have someone that is globally certified, because it's very important to conduct the test appropriately so that you have the best results, such as not having your phone on you or us, or any like new me or any, anything biomagnetic that's going to help your results. We want to make sure we don't cheat and get you the best accurate stuff. So um, here, for anybody that's not familiar, is like, what? Well, what is this, right? What is chakra one or nervous center one mean? It's going to give you a breakdown. So, or again, really cool. You get a percentage of alignment and you get an exact calculation of the energy. So, for example, one for me would be 5.3 joules, which is spot on. Great. I want to be between that 4 to 6 range, and my alignment is 92. So this one, I'm not the best example on this one, but like for example, 5 is 86. So I would say, okay, great, 86. So that's talking about, lungs, heart, neck, throat, etc. And then also the psychological aspect. So, oh, emotion, inspiration, creativity, emotional, spiritual activities. So it gives us some really cool insight to just, again, we could take what we want to decipher from this, whether it's just the physical. Some people like to focus on certain graphs more than others, but at least we make it available. Doshas, it comes from Ayurveda, an ancient system of medicine from India. And if we're like, well, what in the world is, Vata or Pitta or Kapha? It's going to give us a breakdown here. And again, it gives us the percentage, right? What is the percentage of deviation here? And what does it mean? So vata associated with things like, the colon, the brain, the kidneys, the urinary bladder system. And so again, it's just a lot of information. This is a separate system that we at Successfully Human purchased to give you an overall. The biorhythm. But again, you can read through what biorhythm is, but essentially it goes by date. So based on your birthday, based on, what the scan says, it's pretty cool. You can kind of get an estimate based on your biology of when is your high, when is your low? Like, when am I my physical top best? So if I'm looking at this, I would look at red and go, oh, okay, so it seems to be, in August, um, the 17th, 18th, hey, that's probably when I want to train harder. And emotional cycle. Okay, well, it seems like the beginning and the ending of the month is where I might be, dealing a little bit more with emotions. So I'll be cognizant. And the intellectual, when am I the sharpest? Oh, probably between the, 26, 27. Maybe I want to pick up and learn the language or something. But it's really cool stuff that, again, we want to provide. Take what you desire. Now, the yin yang meridian, so much information. I'm going to just kind of fly through it and just stick with the first example. So, you're going to get a rundown of all of the meridians, right? The 12 energy meridians based on traditional Chinese medicine. And so, here we'll look, for example, at the first one, the lung. It's going to give you, again, an energy calculation, 4.41 joules for me, and your balance. So, 99. If there's anything that I say is below 90, 89 below, just talk to your practitioner, if it's us, if it's anybody else, and just figure out how we can best improve that, right? If it's diet, exercise, if it's biomag, biothermal, if it's drainage, if it's acupuncture, if it's whatever it is, right? Chiropractic, whatever the source is. And it gives you cool information like what happens if there's a physical imbalance, like things like, oh, is there disorders of the chest? Is there and emotional imbalances too? So it talks about things like that you might feel, that you might, it can be associated with things like disappointment and sadness and grief. Because remember, everything has a root of emotion. And emotion is energy in motion. That's the definition. So when you have an emotion, like let's say I get very frustrated, and that releases a magnetic stimulation, which is electromagnetic, because magnetic and electric always, they're best friends, they're always together. And if there's an electromagnetic charge stimulation, it's also going to lead to a chemical. And so everything at the root of everything is emotions. And so it's really cool to go through all of these meridians and get an understanding. Now, let's go to the last and final part. And there's one more, the vertebrae and the teeth. I'll get to those because those we email separately because those are independent softwares that we get. Now, when you get to the final part, this is going to give your synthesis. You're going to say, okay, This is where everything comes together. You're going to look at all your systems, and there's two columns, energy and joules and balance. Now, please pay attention to this part because I'm not the best example in this one, but let's just say that, oh, right here. So, for example, for me, I saw in also the graph that the pancreas, I was like, oh, there's a gap there. There's a disbalance in, the parasympathetic and sympathetic. And so I see in the balance, I said, okay, my pancreas has a 68.94 balance. I got to pay attention to my pancreas and give it some love. Let's say that, let's go to the eyes. And let's say, just for example's sake, that the energy was an 8.23 joules and it's dark yellow. We don't want to be there. But the balance might say it's 98%. And so we might say, but it's green. But this is very important to watch out for because balance, we're only seeing pretty much the homeostasis between both of the systems, right? Are they equal? If we're looking at it in the graph, do they look equal or is there a big gap? That doesn't mean that it's in the right voltage, the right energy category. So you can have very high or very low and have a good balance because they're both the same, but be, in an energy category you don't want to be in. So I always tell people first, always look at the energy. Always look at energy, making sure that you're between the 4 and 6 or an adaptation of maybe 6.30 something, 3.80 something. Essentially, you want it to be as green as possible. For example, if I'm looking at the blind gut, it's 6.30. Well, that's probably an adaptation phase. If it was already going to 7.89 or 8 point, then I would be like, okay, hold on, let me figure out what's going on there. And so just please, be aware of that, that the balance, just read it accordingly. If you see a balance that is, 100%, 98%, but you see that the energy joules is high, just bear that we've got to focus on the energy to make sure that the flow is correct. I hope that this brief explanation helps you all better understand and decipher. Now I'm going to show you the vertebrae and the teeth real quick, and that will be a wrap. So let me switch to that. So this is a scan of my vertebrae. There are multiple ways that we can see it. First thing is, again, the graph in the bottom. Go to the green. The same concept applies. We want to be in the green. We never want to be in the two extremes. The dark yellow is not showing for me because fortunately, I guess I did a great job of it on August to make sure that there wasn't any inflammatory responses. But the way to read it is we're going to have all of the vertebrae on the left side from cervical 1 down to coccyx. On our end, if we select, let's say C5, I'm able to get an exact, and also, for example, as you can see here, each vertebrae is correlated with a specific organism, like the eyes, the ears, teeth, cerebral zone, etc. And this is a beautiful science that kind of helped bring chiropractic studies about because a person was deaf and they figured out, oh, hold on, there's something going on in the vertebrae. When that was taken care of, then the person started to hear again. So it's absolutely incredible, the interaction and how everything is just always working in synergy. And so there's an origin and an insertion to everything, right? And so when we look at this, you want to, again, be as green as possible. If it's that, like, for example, C5 and L2 for me, I'm like, okay, adaptation, maybe I had a workout, maybe something happened, maybe my posture, maybe I was sitting for a long time, which tends to happen sometimes. But if there's any area that is, again, the red or the dark yellow, please pay attention to it and look, ask your practitioner, ask your globally certified specialist to give you that information, what organs are associated with that so that you can be proactive and be able to make sure that your spine, which has so many important responsibilities in a lot of the autonomic responses, such as reflex, right? If we ever, let's say, touch a hot stove, it's not the brain that tells us to, hey, let it go, like move your hand back. It's actually our spinal cord. And so it has so many hidden, gems that it does for us, and the correlation that it has with the organs. So we definitely want to make sure that we are paying a lot of attention to this. And it kind of goes with the same concept. 4 to 6 is where we want to be. And last but not least, the teeth. This is another private program that we got so that if, let's say, you're even going to the dentist, right, you can also share this information and the vertebrae and the teeth, along with your audio therapy for the energetic or the chakra and the nervous system, aka nervous system alignment. Support is always emailed independently. So here you're going to have all of the teeth numbered. The most common question I get is, oh my gosh, do I have a rotten tooth? It's blue. That just means which one we're currently analyzing. And so we want to optimally be something like this, all green within the same ranges. Again, the same concept applies, which is so beautiful and so easy to decipher. If anything is red or if anything is dark yellow, we want to pay attention. If anything is a different color other than green, we have the capability to select it and see the correlation of which organs are associated with this. We are not measuring things like cavities, or remember, there's nerves, there's, veins and arteries, and there's a whole lot of beautiful connection that goes on behind our teeth. So even if, because I get this question a lot, what if I don't have that tooth? You still have all the beautiful connections, because in a meridian, right, even if we don't have that organ, which is another great question, they say, I don't have this organ, I don't have my uterus, I don't have, this specific tooth or organ. It doesn't matter. In a meridian, it always has to go through that pathway. And so we're looking at the energetic measurement. And so it is accurate, and it is something that we need to pay attention to, whether the tooth is there or not, whether the gallbladder is there or not, whatever the case is. But these are still very accurate, readings that we should keep in mind, because in essence, our body doesn't work by just dividing subparts, right? We are one unit in synergistic, you know, divine functioning. And so it's very important to make sure that even our teeth, right? Because a lot of things that happen, such as some very chronic illnesses like cancer and things like that, if you look at the research, there's something going on behind the teeth. A lot of bacterial reservoirs and things like that. So definitely just pay attention to everything possible so that you can get the best results and get the best support that you can do at home for yourself and also obtained by your practitioner. I hope that you all were able to at least get some clarifying questions that you may have had out of the way, and that you can better understand. Remember, it's a beautiful um, teamwork combination between what you do at home in the day to day, your habits, your thoughts, your decisions, and what your practitioner, regardless of the field, whether it's your MD, whether it's your acupuncturist, your chiro, your dentist, or let's say a biophysics realm practitioner, make sure that you are very proactive. You use this information so that everybody can have a really overall, you know, image of what might be happening, because even though we are blessed to have blood work testing and MRIs and CT scans and colonoscopies and all the amazing tests that are out there, we are energetic beings. And if we think about it, EEGs, EKGs, right? They measure the electromagnetic fields of the brain, of the heart. And if a person ever finds themselves between life and death, they don't inject anything. They run a voltage and they poof, get the heart going again, because it is an electromagnetic stimulation that keeps us alive. And so, in order for even cells to communicate, to do their function, a neuron to neuron, we need an action potential. And so, electromagnetic is medicine. It is our foundation of our creation. And so, understanding our energetic function is vital. So, I wish you all a fantastic day. May this help all of you and continue to be consistent with whatever you're doing and continue to get your BioWell scan whenever you can so that you can get a log of how your body is healing and progressing.